Okay. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of Within the Game podcast. Very first guest. Proud to have Eddie Henderson and honored as well. Eddie, how's it going, man?
It's going very good.
All
Very
good.
good.
And we got Jaimito as well in the background, who's going to be helping us set up all the technology and the microphones here at 1712 Studios. Eddie, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've been proud to achieve in your coaching and playing career.
Um, wow. So I started playing way back in the day. We had a family move in into our neighborhood that was from a different culture. We were playing basketball, and one of the kids started kicking it with their feet, and we're like, "Hey, that's not what you do." And they're like, "Well, this is what we do where we're from." And my brothers and I gravitated to it. I have 11 brothers and 6 sisters. So we played soccer, football, like all the time, every day. And I grew up playing in this little league called the CYO, the Catholic Youth Organization. And I thought I was the best player on the planet, right? But it was just a little neighborhood, sort of all these Catholic kids and small little league. But when I moved on to another Catholic high school at O'Day, I got introduced to Premier Soccer, and that's when I got on a club team. And then my world was opened up and thrust very quickly into the game at a high level. Went to try out for ODP, made it, got invited into a national camp at U15s. I got cut. Thought I should have made it, so I came back the next year, got cut again. And then I made it at the under 17 level. Went to qualifying, helped the team qualify for the under 20 World Cup. So then I got to go to the World Cup with the under 20s. But a lot happened in those 2 or 3 years in high school. I, you know, played for the youth national team, played in the World Cup. Then I got drafted to play professional soccer out of high school. All with the beginnings of me playing in this little Catholic youth organization league. It's kind of where it started. So it's kind of funny. But then I went on, didn't play professionally until later. I ended up going to college at University of Washington and was the first All American there. So that's one thing I feel proud of, that I was the very first All American at the University of Washington, and always knew I wanted to play professionally. So that path eventually came, and I ended up playing 11 years. Have a lot of bad injuries, but no regrets. I would do it all over again.
Love
So
that, man. Love that. So you got to represent your country out of high school.
I did. Never made the senior men's team. I had a little stint with the 1990 team, but I was not selected or not good enough. So it is what it is. But I got to represent my country at the under 20 level. So.
Can you talk a little bit about the honor that it is to go and represent your country at at a world stage like that, even though it's at the youth level?
It truly is. I don't think it really ever hits anyone until maybe that first game. You got butterflies in the locker room, but then when you're sitting there and they're playing the other national anthem. That World Cup we played Germany, Bulgaria, and Saudi Arabia. But it doesn't hit you until they start playing your national anthem. You're like, wow, okay, I'm here representing the country. So there's like a flood of emotions, butterflies. Waiting for that first whistle to blow, because at least for me, it was this nervousness of, oh man, I think I'm gonna pass out. But then once the whistle blew, I went into that attack mode and let's play, let's go, game on.
Yeah.
So, but as soon as the national anthem kind of kicked in, I wouldn't say I got teary eyed, but I was awestruck. Like, okay, wow, I'm actually here at the World Cup representing my country.
Where did it hit you? Maybe it was before this, or maybe that was the moment or after. that you realized you could take your craft really to a different level compared to the peers that maybe you were around growing up?
It was. I think I was always that kid that I played against all my brothers, right? And I was the youngest of 12 boys, so I got the crap beaten out of me all the time. Um, and I was just one of those kids that never gave up. So as I continued to play the game, I always played up with on my brother's team, so I was always playing against older kids. I love basketball as well, but as you can see, I'm vertically challenged, so I was not really going to have a career in
All three of
basketball.
us are. All three of us are. Don't worry. Me, Eddie, Jaime, we're all. Don't worry, man. It's a safe space.
So soccer became like the great equalizer. When I was on the field at 5 foot nothing, I could still be a giant. And I think that was a realization. I guess probably my sophomore year in high school when I made varsity because that was like a big deal at my school. There were a lot of really good players. They had a rule that freshmen couldn't make it, but my sophomore year I made varsity, right? And I got to start, and so there was sort of this. Wow, they must think I'm pretty good to give me that accolade. And we had some pretty good players at that school, some legends that around the Seattle area that went on to have great college careers, and some of them went on to play pro. And I think a few even had a couple national team stints. So
A quick question that I have is, what's one good memory you have playing for the national team?
that's easy. So in the qualifying round in Trinidad and Tobago, when I first walked on the field, there were a lot of like people yelling in the stands. I really couldn't hear them. I guess they were probably making fun of me because I was short. But then once the game started and they saw me play, the whole tune of the crowd changed. And there's even an article that they wrote about me, and the caption kind of read, the American Eddie Henderson, when he came to Trinidad, he came with the United States, but he will be forever known as Short Man. So everywhere I went in the country in Trinidad, people would go, Short Man, Short Man. And so it just stuck. And all the players like, Short Man. But that's one of my greatest memories of that trip. That Dwight York was playing with Trinidad then and Russell Latapy. So we had a battle against Trinidad. We needed a tie to go through, and it was us against the whole national Trinidad stadium to get this draw to move on to the World Cup. So that game was epic, but the crowd, they welcomed us and they welcomed me as Shortman, and I became a very kind of popular person in the country. So
How old were you then?
I was 17 at the time. That was the qualifying.
So, uh, you're at that age, right? You're at that young age in that big moment, and you mentioned that little bit of taunting and noise when you would play, or maybe now as coaches, sometimes it happens as well, maybe with parents or the opponent. When you get a little bit of that, is there a little bit of nerves, or you were the type of person or coach or player now that kind of fuels you and you ignore it, and that kind of gives you a new meaning? Because some people, they crumble to it a little bit, or some people engage with it and they look to, have the last laugh by the end of it.
I most certainly like engaged it and almost even sort of egged it on.
Yeah.
I've always been the underdog, and I took that sort of tag with pride of like, okay, yeah, you think I'm small, all right, we'll see when we step on the field. We'll see who's small then. And I think it's just something that my mom always instilled in me, that she used to have little sayings for me when I was younger. Her favorite one was, when they pick on you, you just tell them you're a little piece of leather and you're well put together. And so I always had this sort of like bravado, if you will, that like, man, no one's gonna beat me. I don't care if I'm smaller than you or not. I'm gonna play against you hard, and you better be ready. So
So a little bit off of that, do you think, in order for you to have the career that you had, do you think that's what separated you from the rest of the pool? That things like that, didn't affect in the way that you would go out and perform and go about your thing?
I think it was a little bit of that, but I also think it was the fact that I had older brothers that never took it easy on me and always expected the best and never let me make excuses. They didn't let me make the excuse that, oh man, I can't do it, I'm too small. That was never, they would never let me say things like that.
Yeah.
So the expectation was set by them. When we played 1v1 or 2v2, they never took it easy on me, right? They never let me score to make me feel good. They would play as hard as they could and say, look, if you don't like it, get better.
Yeah.
Or keep playing, come and beat me. So they were a big part of it. And it was a blessing because it made it harder for me, but in the end, it proved to be what got me to those different levels.
And I think Jaime as well, and Eddie, with the players that I work with now, I think there's a little bit of a true factor to what he's mentioning. There's a psychological factor to that as well, because, for example, I've had players, and I still do now, when there is mistakes or things aren't going their way, but there's a but, or there's an excuse. In their mind, they think it's a reason, but there's an excuse.
Yeah.
Psychologically, you're giving a justification to why that's happening, and then there's no real growth.
Right.
And I work with goalkeepers a lot. So with goalkeepers, there was a bounce here right before, or I was crowded, or there's a deflection here, right? But when in reality, there's never a look in the mirror, and psychologically, that player, that goalkeeper in his head is going to have a justification, and then there's going to be no growth when maybe in reality there is a problem laying down there, right?
Right.
And then there's never a correction there. So I agree with that a lot. I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying to that. I don't know if you have a lot of that with your players as well.
I mean, I try to hold them accountable. And as you said, maybe look at what you could have changed or what you could have done differently than always embracing, well, there was a guy in my way, or the ball bounced off the grass. Someone played me a bad ball. I try to instill in players that, listen, you're not always going to get the perfect pass. And good players turn a bad pass into something good, right? Good players make a bad pass into a good pass by either taking an extra step to move, not throwing up their hands, and then yelling at the coach, they can't pass me the ball. You find a way. Good players find a way.
Okay, next thing that I kind of want to get into, Eddie, comparing it to this day and age, what challenges and roadblocks do players face now that you can relate to when you were playing?
I think, and this has been an ongoing battle, I think, in this country for years. And I've touched on it many, many times in many circles of different places I've been a part of, even done articles in Soccer America on it and interviews. But economically, there are some challenges for some players. And that was a challenge that I faced, being born with 18 kids. And, some people might say, well, that was your fault that your parents had that many kids. And 100%. Little point to that story, though, my parents also took the time to send us all to private school. So, and again, that was a choice, but they wanted us to have a good education.
Yeah.
But it was tough with that many kids. But anything that's going to help a child grow, there should never be economic barriers. Yes, mine was an anomaly that had a real significant challenge because of the amount of kids. But at the same time, there are other kids in families with only one that had the same challenges because of the economic challenges. So I think that's one. I think another big challenge is back in the day, there weren't, I would say the players are better now technically, but there are fewer special players in terms of players who really, really want it, that are willing to put in the work to get to that next echelon of being a top player. I feel like some players want it handed to them. They're not wanting to go and do the work. At 5 foot nothing, nothing was ever given to me. In fact, it was always that kid's too small. He's never gonna make it. Don't waste your time on him. College programs. I'm sure that's maybe why I didn't make the national team the first year. Who knows? But I was willing to keep working hard. And even when I was told no, I didn't give up. I didn't make an excuse like, oh, well, they don't think I'm not good enough. I wasn't going to let them define who I was. I was going to define who I was. And I think sometimes players, and I tell my players all the time, like, if you're upset about a coaching decision I make or if I pull you off, I don't define you. You define yourself. Show me something different then. Come back and show me different. Show me that I made a mistake taking you off. Don't go pout and then not play hard because now you're just living into what decision I made. Go and show me. Show me something different.
Did you feel that this sense of entitlement in the players, and by the way, it's not just in the players, it's in the parents as well. Do you, I think I know the answer to it. Did you not feel that as much when you were playing?
I don't, and here's another funny thing. I knew kids that economically were very well off, but they worked as hard as I did.
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with maybe socioeconomic things. It has to do with just maybe a desire to want to compete and work hard, and not have it be so easy that it's given to you. It's way more rewarding when you have to work really hard at something than to have it handed to you. And so I see some of that. I can't put my finger on why it's so different now that some players need that sort of these accolades of making them feel good, and if things don't go their way, you've got to sometimes not just be a coach, you're a psychologist, you're many things. And it wasn't that way growing up. It's just, hey, tough, this is the break, so you can either choose to get on with it or do something else. And so when I failed, I would try again. If I failed, I'd keep trying until I accomplished what I was supposed to. And if I didn't, at least I had the satisfaction knowing that I never gave up.
And more to the club level, specifically the club level, right? And that pay to play system. In my experience so far, in my young coaching career so far, I think social status is a big part of it, because when I'm practicing with my team and I'm rolling in, right, and your club has the fields reserved, and then you see the group of kids that are just there kicking the ball around because they don't have the opportunity to play in a proper club establishment. Guess what? Those kids are just happy to get the opportunity to get a tryout, to get a training session in, or I've brought in some of those players to my teams, and they're just happy for the opportunity to be there. Whereas, maybe you get this other kid and he's had the opportunity week in and week out, right, from the get-go at 6, 7, 8 years old. And now we're here at the high school level. And guess what? It's as simple as maybe you're not starting, but you're still going to contribute. And now all of a sudden we got a huge issue.
Yeah.
We got a huge issue. But on the other hand, you got the kid that he's just willing to fight for an opportunity to have one session. So, I've dealt with it a lot these last couple of years. And what I like to say, and I've spoken about it with my mentor and with other coaches, I think it should be clear from if we truly mean to be competitive and bring the best players out, when we talk about the pay to play system, when you pay money, you have the right to get an opportunity to play. You don't have the right to dispute minutes.
Yeah.
Let's not get it twisted. You have the right to have the opportunity.
Right.
Because others don't get that opportunity. It's not a right. It's not a given. It's a right for the opportunity to play. You get that opportunity. You get that look. You get the training sessions. You get the looks. Right? It's not a given that you're going to dispute the 90 minutes. It shouldn't be a given that you're going to get 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that should be more clear across the board if our true intentions in U.S. soccer is to produce the best players. And I don't know what you would respond to that.
I would definitely respond that there are many, many, many challenges with the play for pay model. It's got a lot of super challenges, and I think you hit on some things that are right. That whether you're paying to play, it's still got to be something that you earn, because nothing is given to you, and the opportunities that players get, you still should have to earn it. Now, as you say, sometimes you're paying for that opportunity to have it, but then for me it ends there. You got to go out and earn it. You got to do what it takes to be one of the best. It was still, even when I grew up, there was fees, right? Unfortunately, I had people that were generous and helped me out, and we did car washes and we raised money, so I could have these opportunities. But if anything was given to me, like the opportunity, I made sure that I earned that opportunity to play, though. I just didn't take it and go, oh, well, I'm going to take the opportunity but not perform.
Real quick before we move on, because we'll get back to this. Because I went through a similar thing as you did with the economical thing.
Yeah.
And I had to work for my opportunities. I had to pay out of my own pocket. I had to figure out my rights to practices into games. Does it hit you a little bit? Or maybe it's just me. Does it get to you a little bit extra when parents or players come to you, you need to understand, or you don't understand the investment that we're putting in this for my kid not to play, or you know what I mean? I'm sure you've had plenty of that, and to me it's like I have to bite my tongue a little bit because man, you don't got a clue. I was like, the reason why I work this way, the reason why I communicate with my players this way, because I was in their shoes.
Right.
And to me, it's just bigger about football. What are the lessons what are we giving them? If we just tell them they have the right to automatically play, not just in football, but down the line when they continue to grow. So for me, when I get those comments, for me, it is a little hard to bite my tongue because I was in those same exact shoes. I had to work for what I had. I had to pay out of my own pocket. I had to find ways to get the tournaments and to get those opportunities. So do you get a little bit of that when you get those kind of comments?
I do, and one of my favorite sort of Eddieisms, and I probably stole it from someone, but my mentor taught me, when you hear something good, beg, borrow, steal it, make it yours. And one thing that I kind of point out to people is that the only time that success comes before work is in the dictionary. That's it.
Okay, Eddie. So now going into your coaching career, we've talked a little bit about your playing career. At what point throughout your playing career, maybe it was before, maybe it was growing up as well, did you feel that you still wanted to remain a part of the game?
I think it was a process over time. I think having went through everything I went through, having had all the doors that opened up, and me being very, very thankful, I planted the seed in my head that, man, whenever I get the opportunity, I'm going to give back to the game, whether it's financially, whether it's coaching, and even when I left the game, I never truly left. Funny story. So the last team I played with, the owner ran his own brokerage firm. He had come on a road trip, on one of the road trips, and said, "Hey, you got the really gift of gab." He said, "You got the gift of gab. You're a good speaker, and you got this charisma." And he goes, "What are you gonna do after soccer?" And I'm like, "Man, no one ever asked me that."
Yeah.
And he said, "I run a brokerage firm." Long story short, he's like, "Come in and meet me, and we'll talk." And I'm like, "A brokerage firm?" So I get there, and he's like, like Wall Street, Gordon Gecko, like we're stockbrokers. I'm like, "Oh, like investment banking? Yeah, okay." So I took my Series 7 while I was still playing. And I managed a few accounts for some of the top players that made a lot of money. The team doctor, a few other, boosters and things like that. And um, it opened up a door that, you know, I had never had financially. And so in my mind, I'm like, I got to get back to the game. But I never truly left. I mean, even when I was doing that, I still coached on the side, um, because I was missing the game and I missed it as a player. I think I went through what a lot of players go through when you retire. You go through this like 6 month depression where you miss the game. Like I used to leave the office and go to the field and watch the guys train because I missed it so much. But that was after my seventh knee surgery, knowing that my career was over. I was done, right? And I could still play, but not at that level,
Yeah.
right? So I made it a point that, man, I'm going to get back. And so I started to get into coaching. And then when I finally left that business, I thought about some of the economic challenges. And so then I got on some of these boards and I thought, man, an entry should never be, there should never be an economic barrier to entry to the game because of someone's economics. So I became that guy and that spokesman to try to help kids that might have been like me that needed an opportunity. And that's why I'm still probably part of the game because, you know, it opened a lot of doors for me. So I feel like I owe the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I want to give back. And there might be other kids out there that need that same opportunity.
Yeah. Something to that real quick.
Yeah, talking about opportunities, where did it all begin for you with coaching?
Um, so interestingly enough, even when I first started playing professionally, in the off season I got bored. So I went to one of the local high schools and asked could I coach. Um, and I started coaching. I got really close to the kids, and then I got traded. But I loved it, and I'm like, man, you know what? I think I could coach too. But I was in the middle of my playing career, right? And then all of a sudden I get traded. I'm in a new city, trying to make sure I secure a spot in a starting spot. So I'm not really focusing on coaching him. But then once I kind of got established in this team, then I sought it out again, and I just got involved with a little local team to kind of give back. You know, did some volunteer stuff just because, again, I wanted to give back. So that was sort of, I think part of it was that during the off season I got bored, and also too I felt like, man, the game has opened up all these opportunities for you. You need to get back to it.
Yeah.
And so that kind of became my inspiration.
It's that, and I think you feel the same way as I do. It's that you want to give back, but I think you also think about all the things that you had to go through to find that position to put yourself in, and then you think about the kids in your shoes that may not be able to find that route.
1,000.
And I feel that a lot, and I connect with my players a lot
1,000.
in that way because I'm like, some kids will not go through all the loops that I did, or maybe don't know what loops to go through in order to get there.
Yeah.
and then to the point of you mentioning that you couldn't deal without the game for those 6 months. And even though I didn't get to a higher level, and I've gotten better as I've gotten older, I don't think it's a good thing, but your happiness is related to the sport.
It is.
It's connected. It's insane, because
is.
and from the goalkeeping perspective, it's so mental.
Yeah.
And the whole sport is a mental aspect, right? But for that position, for my position, it's such a mental challenge.
Yeah.
Because you feel you're completely isolated. So you have one bad session, and then that piles to a week,
Yeah.
and then that piles to a couple of weeks, because it's very possible with that position, in all positions, right? But your happiness is related to that. And if you don't get things going your way, the way you go about the rest of your day is also connected to that. Now, if you take that completely away after, over a decade or whatever it was of your playing career, and you completely take that away, those months are rough.
Yeah.
Those months are rough. And again, it's probably a bad thing, and we don't realize that.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way. And Jaime is my friend, so we go out often sometimes after some of my games, and if it's something important to me, and if I'm in a bad mood, and I think I've gotten better as time goes by, and these guys get me distracted. But like I said, it's probably not a good thing, and we don't realize it. But it's a real thing, Jaime, where players, their mental well-being and their happiness is connected to that sport, and I think that's something that the general public does not understand, that your happiness is connected to that sport.
Yeah.
And when you completely take that away, it's rough. It's rough.
I mean, for me, selfishly, yes, I wanted to give back, but you're right. It also helped me stay connected.
Yeah.
Or now maybe it wasn't the same camaraderie with the players I played with, but I could teach my players that camaraderie, and now I could be that coach to have the camaraderie with the players like my coach had with me. But you're 100% right. I mean, I was supposed to be a happy time. I'm an investment banker making all this money, and I'm depressed because I'm missing the game.
Yeah.
I was depressed for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, Eddie, I want to get into coaching styles a little bit. As we discussed a little bit off camera, you have top fucking players that get into coaching, and then you have guys that didn't make it quite to that level, and they have their way about about their business as well. Jaime, just to give you an example, the players that I've noticed so far that make it to a really high level, they teach their players on how to do things from that player perspective. Whereas you have coaches who had to go about the game a different way, and they go about teaching the game from a structural standpoint, from a chess piece standpoint, on how to move pieces standpoint. Do you think that's true, Eddie? And where do you see yourself, and where do you fall into that category, and what do you think about that a little bit?
I definitely see that, and I think from my perspective, especially when you're a new young coach, and I'm not young, but I retired in my 30s. So when I got into coaching, I had this professional background, and I did the same thing. I taught players based on things that I saw as a player, and I did that for a long time. It wasn't until I kind of got into coaching education that I started to think the game more, and even started to realize that I can't always assume that my players are going to know things because they're good players, right? And so I think there's a transformation. Now, licensing is just like a driver's license still sometimes. I can be the greatest player in the world and get a license and not be a good coach. Just like I can get a license and be a horrible driver, and everyone has one. So you take it with a grain of salt. But for me, I think the licensing taught me how to think and how to teach the game. And so now I became more in tune with, man, I can't always teach everything from the perspective of when I was a player. And I did. Every time there was a game that we had a challenge, I would jog my memory to think about a game that I had that was similar, so I could tell my players what to do to counteract what was happening. right? Instead of actually thinking about it like you say as a chess game of, okay, what pieces do I need to move now? But that is a part of coaching, because sometimes
Yeah.
the best knowledge is gained through experience until you get to that experience you've never had.
You always need both. Yeah.
So now you need that strategic piece.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the coaching education part taught me.
Would you agree that by in terms of categories, I mean ages, you think one helps that particular age group more than the other?
Coaching education.
So, for example, you talk about yourself early on in your career
Right.
and how you mainly just taught from that player perspective that we're talking about. Do you think that at that point in your career and that way of coaching benefits one age group more than the other? Or do you think that really doesn't matter?
I do a little bit, because I think my sweet spot is like 12 to 14, especially when I could still play and run and move.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I could show players what I
Show them a
wanted.
little bit, humble them.
And the game is very much still technical at that point. And so it goes to that old adage of, you've got these coaches that are trying to teach kids at 8 years old tactics. And it's like, hey, teach them how to manipulate the ball,
Yeah.
because they're going to be better tactically if they can do that. So I think for me, it helps when you're a player who's played to teach younger players and show them things about specifics about the games, because, and there might be people that might argue with me that, in my opinion, the best knowledge is gained through experience. So if I have this experience to show a kid how to do a double scissors or how to create a good first touch, and then I teach them how to emulate that, and then they can see it and then practice it, they become better technically, and then that's going to make them better tactically. So I think that's that sweet spot you're talking about,
Yeah.
it helps when kids are younger. But I think as kids get older, now you're managing kids, and you're
Yes.
managing players, and there's more of a tactical aspect. And sometimes you may not have the experience that now you need to grasp onto in your knowledge to teach them in a certain situation. You've got to think about the game yourself tactically, and
Yeah.
and go, how do I solve this problem right now?
I think to the players and the coaches and Jaime listening, the reason why I'm so addicted to working with the college players and the high school age players is because I'm so in love with that tactical side of the game. And that's how you interpret the game. That's how I digest the game.
Yeah.
But like how he's saying, you need a balance as well.
Yeah.
You need a balance because they're at that level for a reason. They're not playing for Manchester United. They're not overseas for a reason, right? We're coaching them for a reason. So I have to find that right balance, and I think that's why. Not that I didn't like working with the little kids, but I spoke with my directors. I didn't think I was the best fit for the little ones. I also recognize that I have to teach the game from a more technical standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at this stage right now, I didn't think I was the best fit for them because the way I digest the game, the way I interpret it, and the way I love to work doesn't benefit the kiddos
Right.
as much as I can help the older age group. And I think that's why I'm also asking you this question, because I've noticed that from different coaches. And like you said, you see some coaches on the board with the little ones. We gotta do this. I'm like, no, man, let them play.
Let 'em play.
Let them play. I'm like, what? As much as I'm a tactical coach, when I had my little ones last year, it was about their development and them having fun.
Yeah.
That's all it was about.
Yeah.
So I agree with you a lot. Hyman, did you have something? No, you're good. Eddie, anything else to add to that, or you good on that?
No, I'm good on that. I think just with the younger ones, you got to teach them to fall in love with the ball.
Yeah.
And the tactical stuff will come later on when
Yes.
they're comfortable with the ball. If they're not comfortable, you can never teach tactics properly,
Yeah. Exactly.
in my opinion.
Exactly. What is your philosophy as a coach? What's that brand that you have? And what are your unnegotiable values? I have mine tattooed on my arm. So it's something that I always go about. Por el amor a ganar, no por el temor a perder. For the love to triumph,
Right.
not for the fear of failure. That was a quote from the Mexican manager in 2018 when we upset Germany in that 1-0 game, and
Yeah.
that was the
I
message
remember.
to the Mexican players for the love to triumph, not for the fear of failure. And that always stuck with me. So what would it be for you, Eddie?
Man, there's a couple of them. I'm really, really, really big on hard work. Another one is commitment, and then this is gonna sound like a strange one, but honesty. And I don't mean honesty as be honest, but be honest as a player. We all know when we're working hard and when we're not.
Yeah,
And if you're going to play for me, when you step on the field, be honest, commit to it, commit to being an honest, hard worker, because I know from real life, there were other players better than me, but very few players worked harder than me.
yeah,
And I had a better career and a longer career and accomplished more because, and we've all heard the little sayings, but hard work will always outdo talent
yeah,
when talent doesn't work hard. And, you know, no one ever said success would be easy. You got to work at it. But some players are not always honest. They're very talented, but they only work hard when they want to. And you got to commit to it. That's where the commitment part comes in. So those three are big for me. They're non-negotiables. If you play for me, you got to hard work, you got to commit to that, and you got to be honest when you do it.
love it. I love it. Okay, how much of a weight or a responsibility, maybe pressure, do you feel, assume, or accept, however you want to phrase it, to be a key figure in young men's life, and maybe specifically in kids or young men that you see yourself in a little bit?
I think honestly, if you're going to coach, you have some responsibility. And I know, Charles Barkley's famous, you know, I'm not here to raise anybody else's kids as an athlete. And that was when he was playing professionally. So he wasn't coaching. But as coaches, we do have some responsibility because whether we see it or not, they're going to pick up on things that we do, right? They're going to learn those little life lessons. One of my favorites, all my players know for the last 30 years. I've got kids that are in their 40s who played for me because I'm that old now.
Nah.
Who will, if I said it to them, hey, the little things what? And they'll repeat back. They matter because they do. And I think we do have a responsibility. And I don't, for me, I don't look at it as a guilt thing. I look at it as let me give back again because I had a good career, but I wish I had better mentors for me that would have taught me more. But I feel like, you know what? I want to make sure that these kids know that, hey, there's life after soccer. And some of these life lessons that you'll learn could help you in the future. It might help you in a job, it might help you get a job, especially the hard work, the honesty, and the commitment. We're not just teaching football, man. We're teaching these kids how to be better people, become successful people, right? You can make as much money in the game as you want and go broke. It happens all the time,
Yeah,
right? Still happens all the time.
yeah.
So we have to teach them, and it's not an obligation. I think it's just something that we have to do because if you're going to coach, that's part of the responsibility.
So it sounds like it's something more of, and I think we touched on it earlier, and I feel the same way where you think about where you were at and what you had to go through, and you think about the kids that won't find that.
Yeah.
And you almost think about if I'm not there, they won't be able to find that. So I connect with that a lot as well. Um, let's get into the players in this day and age, and their development a little bit, especially on the psychological side, on the mental side. I talk with so many players who want to speak about that, but maybe they don't express it the right way or they don't feel comfortable in doing so. Um, what do you think are the biggest differences mentally and socially from when you were a player to now? What do you think we've advanced on? And what do you think maybe this generation still carries from maybe in the past as well?
Well, we've definitely made some advancements in dealing with players' mental health issues. Um, I think, man, I feel bad for some guys that were young guys when I was coming up that, um, whether you call it hazing, whether you call it, um, being picked on, just it was a tough environment and not everybody could survive. But now there's, even the MLS has a thing for young rookies and how to guide them through and things like that. And for us, it was sort of like we got thrown in the wolves, and the
Yeah.
strong survived, which may be wrong or right, but it was what it was. But I think that part of the game has been good. That now we look out for those younger players coming up and teach them how to be good pros. Um, I think I was a good pro in terms of the way I played. I was never. I had some great moments. I was never considered a great player, but I had an 11-year career. I played a long time, um, but I also had some things that I picked up some bad habits as a young pro that because I didn't have a mentor. But
Yeah.
I was tough enough that I dealt with being in bad situations where players yelled at me or whatever, hazing and all that stuff. Um, but I also think too nowadays players are not as tough as they should be, even though they don't have to go through maybe the things that we went through as players. But even when they go through a little microcosm of it, some of them can't handle those adversities, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You mentioned the mentor part, and
Yeah.
that's what I was going to go to. And we touched on it a little bit with you and Jaime on how, at least for me and you, and I'm sure it's the case with those really competitive players, that their happiness and their state of mind is connected to the sport. And for me to this day, it's very difficult for me to detach from the sport to real
Yeah.
life. It still is. So how, taking that into mind and the mental toll that this sport takes, especially at an elite level and a higher level, how key is it for players to have that mentor, to have that figure in their life?
I think it's very key. And like I said, I mean, I think I had mentors. Some of them were teammates, some of them were coaches. Um, but someone to guide you through your career, through the when you're a rookie, someone who could have told me, "Hey, you don't need to buy 3 cars. What are you doing? Just because you're a pro now, you think you need to buy 3 cars?" I didn't. Stupid,
Mm,
right? Um, Little things like that, making the right choices, um, nutrition.
mm,
No one cared what we ate back in those days. We ate what we wanted. And now we're realizing it's a big part of what we
yeah.
do. Proper rest. It's no big secret that in a lot of professional sports, sometimes alcohol goes hand in hand,
Yeah.
and you know anything is okay in moderation. But sometimes back in the day, it was like part of like, hey, you play and then you go get slammed,
Mm,
right? But even if you had a game in 3 days, well, guess what? It's still going to affect you, right? But that's something you learn from your mentor, and I think that's why it's important, especially for younger players at an elite level, to have someone that you can look up to and speak with.
did you mention that little bit of lack of mentorship? Was that in part, and that was a little bit the case with me and why I am in coaching, was that because you felt, I'll mention it more about my case. I was never able to connect truly or have someone that I could understand my background or the way I grew up and the way I was raised because I just simply never had a Hispanic coach. I never had a brown or a black coach. Um, do you think that was a little bit of the case with you? and maybe that could have helped you get along the way. Did you lack that, or maybe did you at one point have a coach that you could connect with in that way?
I think I had players that were older, and I could connect, but especially when I was younger, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me.
Yeah.
So it was a lot harder when I was younger. When I got older, I started to find more. And so then I was able to find mentors. But I also think another part of it was it's kind of like the old adage of even, mental health of, oh, well, you're an athlete. You're not supposed to have problems. Men don't talk about their problems.
Yeah.
Come on, you need to be a tough guy. Well, part of your mental problem could have been that you're having a slump and you're a forward and you're not scoring. And now you go into this depression, right? And having someone to be a soundboard to help you get through that. But it's kind of like, you know, going to therapy. Men are not supposed to
Yeah.
go to therapists, right? So having a mentor at back in those days was kind of like the same thing. Like, oh, what do you get on with it? What do you mean? You're a pro. You just tough it out. What do you know? But there's some truth to it a little bit. But I think it was a different time back then that
Yeah.
we just had to deal with it, right? If you were in a slump, then either two things were coming. You were going to get out of it or you're going to get benched, right? And so you did everything like heck to not get benched. And if you did, then you had to work harder to get back in the lineup. It's just that simple.
Do you we talk about those challenges about speaking, about where we're truly at. I had his this is fresh, probably a month ago. In my culture at least, it's not known to speak about where you're really at. Especially it's a really masculine culture.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, and that's the way I saw my father, my grandfather, my brother, my younger brother as well, my uncles, whatever it is. We're all the same way.
Yeah.
Do you feel like players sometimes help you with that? Because last month I had a case where I had to open myself up, even though I don't want to,
Yeah.
for that player
Yeah.
to help him. It's like we almost helped each other at the same time,
Yeah.
because I had to come out of my shell. I'm like, we'll say Joe, because I don't want to say his name. We'll say Joe. I'm like, no, I just said his name. We'll have to cut it out, but you'll cut it out. This is me showing you that I have to open up as well. This is the most vulnerable I've been, and I'm doing it
Yeah.
for you so you can open up as well. So do you find yourself in that situation as well, where your players help you as well because you feel that need to show them?
1,000. And I think you hit up on something too, that when I was younger, the people that I did find would kind of say, man, like things like, hey, it's the bar's different for us.
Yeah.
So you just gotta tough it out. I'm like, yeah, but they're kicking me, man. Like, hey, this is what it. So sometimes that was tough, man.
Yeah.
To be in an environment where you're the only person of color and guys are freaking trying to train wreck you.
Yeah.
And you're like going, who's protecting me?
Yeah.
Right. So with players now that might be in a similar situation, I feel like, well, I got to be an advocate because no one was ever an advocate for me. Now, there's someone always has to be the first. Right?
Yeah.
I was the first, but now that I'm on the other side, I'm gonna speak up so that players didn't have to go through what I went through, right? And if they come to me, and it allows me to open up to say, hey, let me share a story that happened to me. Because sometimes it's therapeutic for me too. Because
Yeah.
back then I didn't get to talk about it.
Yeah.
I just had to deal with it.
Yeah.
It just was what it was.
Okay, Eddie, one more question for the player side of things. What can players that feel and are at a social and economical disadvantage do in order to achieve real and true success, or just have a shot and an opportunity to do so?
I think the first thing is to embrace when there are opportunities, and don't let maybe the socioeconomic become a barrier. There's lots of resources now, way more than there ever was before, especially for guys like me. And there was ways around it. Like I caught the bus to every single practice, and yeah, I got home at 10 o'clock, but that was the price I had to pay. And I think for me, the big thing for those players that might be at that socioeconomic disadvantage, anything's possible. You just got to be willing to pay the price. And as long as you do that, for me, you can be successful. I think a lot of players and people know exactly what they want, and they're willing to, they know what the price is they have to pay, but very few are willing to actually pay the price. For me to be successful, to be in the club I was in, yes, I had to catch the bus. Sometimes I had to catch the bus all the way to South Center from Seattle. And I'd have to get out of school early to do it just to get to training. It is what it is. But I did it. It was hard, but that was the opportunity.
Do you think? What do you think is more here? Players not knowing what they have to do, or players not wanting to pay that price? Those kids that we're talking about that are at that stage.
I think it's a little bit of both, but it's what I've found interesting is some of the players I've come across that do have socioeconomic disadvantages. Even for them, there's somewhat of this little entitlement that's around, and you have to you have to strive and work hard to be the best. And yes, it's not fair that maybe things have to be a little bit harder for you. That's just the way it is. But something I learned from life and even an investment banker is that if I was willing to do the things that most people wouldn't, I was able to live like most people can't.
You talk about. I love that. You talk about embracing. Do you think it's I embrace the fact that I was at this point, and I embrace the fact that you got these dudes that have all this, that have all these resources, and you're throwing it away or doing nothing with it. I'm gonna show you that even though I'm here, I'm gonna get exactly to where the hell you're at because I'm embracing my situation, and I'm not gonna use that as an excuse. Uh, and even though you're behind feels like you have a right to this, with all of these resources and all this help you've had, I'm still gonna beat you there. Do you think it's also a fact about embracing of where you're at and not just embracing what you were mentioning a little bit prior?
Yeah, you have to. Most definitely, you need to embrace it. And I think what I mean by embrace it is don't be afraid of maybe the obstacles that you're going to have to go through. It might be a little bit harder, but um, just like the old adage of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But how big is your goal? How big is your dream? I could have made it. I could have made every excuse in the book. Yeah, I'm too small. Yeah, my parents don't have the money. Yeah, I don't really want to catch a bus to practice. That team's too far. Those are just excuses. And so, if you really want something, you've got to figure out what the price is you have to pay, and then resolve to pay the price. It's really it's a simple formula to success. It's amazing to me that some people don't realize it, but figure out what you want, figure out what the price is, and then resolve to pay the price.
Yeah.
I
A
love
quick
that.
question
Yeah.
that I have is how do you balance the natural talent versus the mentality it takes to grind every day?
Um, I think you can't be content. You have to set goals. And, you know, my brother, it's funny, he coached me and he set me on my first goal setting exercise. And he told me to when I was 9 years old. And the cool thing about it, he told the team write down three goals: one for the season, one for a year, and one for 10 years. And I wrote down I wanted to average 3 goals a game. And then I wrote down I wanted to be the MVP at the end of the year, and I wanted to be a professional soccer player. I was 9 when I wrote this. My brother kept that piece of paper. He gave it back to me when I signed my first professional contract. He goes, "See, you was already imprinted in you, right?" So I had the natural talent, but I also had to work for it. And every time I accomplished a goal, I made another goal, and I kept making higher goals. And I think sometimes some players get content. They got all the talent and then figure, I made it this far. It's like getting to the plateau of a mountain, not realizing that, like, hey, above those clouds is another peak. You got to keep going. And some kids don't. They get content. I've reached the plateau, and now I'm going to cruise.
Yeah.
Set a bigger goal, and set a bigger goal after that.
Yeah. Something, and when I get really pissed off, I've used this example a couple of times. When you get that little sense of entitlement or that feeling that you're already there, I get the group out or together, and I ask them, "What the hell have you accomplished? What in the grand scheme of things? What the hell have you?" I go one by one. Not one can give me an accomplishment in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And then that's when it hits them like, oh shit. Yeah, I really am nothing in the sport. But then to not just feel like I'm attacking them, I include myself as well.
Right.
Like, I'm here coaching you guys for a reason as well. If I was a top coach, I'd be overseas. I'd be in some MLS academy. Doesn't mean we can't get there. Right. It means that we're still here, and then there's still steps to be taken. And I reiterate that question of what the hell have you guys, and not just you guys, what the hell have we accomplished to think that we're there? And I think that's what Eddie's referring to, and I think sometimes it's almost like you have to not knock him down, but you have to bring them down a little bit to really grasp that, the sport, you can get humbled quickly. You're at the JUCO level, there's always a bigger shark. You're at the D3 level, there's a bigger shark. You're at the D2 level, there's a bigger shark. And even Division 1 players, you have the professional who's going to be laughing at you. Who the hell are you?
Yeah.
And I think that's at every single level. And I really liked what you had mentioned. And I think those two go a little bit together.
Absolutely. And there's always more talent coming up. So if you're not reinventing yourself every year and all the time, eventually someone catches up.
Yeah. Love it. Let's get into the next part where we just get into strictly for coaches. Hyman, if you didn't know, I actually met Eddie through, I've been working on my licensing through the United States Soccer Federation, and he was my instructor. And we connected. I connected really well with him. Not that other instructors that I haven't done well, but I really like the way that he delivered information, the way he processes things, and I respected that a lot. So the next question kind of goes tied with that. I feel like I'm part of the newer wave that's coming up in coaches. Where do you feel that coaches in my pathway that want to make a career out of this, what do they need to find that success? What do you think is key from someone that has done that already and has that experience and actually teaches, like I've said, these upcoming coaches?
Wow. I think my biggest piece of advice would be kind of what we teach in the course, which is commit to being a lifelong learner. I still learn every day. And sometimes I'll watch sessions of a novice coach and learn something to make me better. Not so I can look at them and put their session down, but just to see what they're doing. And I think I've noticed this sort of trend of there's a lot more players with a professional background that are getting into coaches, but sometimes come in with this, well, I've already got everything figured out.
Yeah.
No one has everything figured out, because if I did, I would be doing something different. I'm still learning every single day. And I think it's, we talked about this in the course. It's a journey, not a destination, right? And I think that would be my biggest advice is challenge yourself. Younger coaches, challenge yourself. If you think you've got it all dialed in, then set some bigger goals or challenges so that you continue to grow as a coach. Maybe get out of your comfort zone, just like we do as players, right? Get out of your comfort zone as a coach. Maybe go to another level. Maybe become a director. Maybe, but don't be content. It's nothing less than what we ask of our players, right? We ask them to be the best they can all the time. So maybe ask yourself that question. Am I being the best I can be right now? Can I take my coaching to another level? Could I learn more? Is there other things I could be better at?
What do you see? Two things. What do you see in younger coaches in this new wave that we're talking about, such as myself and other coaches in our area? Things that we're doing well, uh, things that we've grown on, maybe from the past, and things that maybe we need a little bit of a reality check and maybe we needed to look at ourselves in the mirror a little bit and reflect on and grow on.
I think the biggest thing is I feel like the younger generation of coaches have embraced the coaching education,
Mm,
not not in a way that like, oh, I gotta have this license so that I can get this next job or my next gig, but more of, man, I need to get the education so I can get better
mm,
because I want to be one of the best,
mm.
and I think that's important. Um, I do see a trend of lots of players, former players coming into coaching that sometimes have this sort of, well, there's not much I'm gonna learn. I mean, I even had it in some of the recent courses I've taught, and after the fact, I've had coaches come to me and go, "Man, I thought this was just going to be another BS course, and I actually learned a lot,
Yeah.
and now I'm really interested." So I think just eat some humble pie, come in with an open mind, because someone might teach you something that might make you better.
Love coaching topics. Eddie, with your teams, what's the biggest challenge um, with balancing results and development at the same time at the youth level? What's your advice? What's your take on that? What are your experiences with it?
So for me, winning is a part of development, and I know for every game that I go into, I try to set out to not just play good soccer, but to get a result in the game by playing good soccer.
Yeah.
Not strictly for a result. There are some environments, um, finals, a national championship. Hey, you just got to get it done,
Yeah.
right? And some of it has to do with the age of the players, um, because even at a younger age, and even at a national championship, yes, you want to win, but you also want to stress the part about, hey, we don't just try to win at all costs because the next time we're in this environment, it may not work out for us if we're not developing a way to win and trying
Mm,
to play good soccer.
mm.
So I think it's a fine line, but anyone who doesn't believe that winning isn't part of development, you're wrong. Kids, that's why they play too. Yeah, they play to have fun. They also play to be on a winning team. Kids want to win. That's part of it.
How does that affect your decisions when we're taking development into consideration? When you're looking at minutes, when you're looking at your bench at this competitive youth level?
I think the fine line is, especially with the pay to play model, is if I'm a coach and I make a decision on not playing a player um, in a game where we're winning or losing, and if I end up winning, getting the result, you could argue that, well, listen, we won the game, um, and so I did my job, and that's all that matters. Well, there's also a part where some of those players you have to take in consideration. Like, let's say, for example, it's a game that you need to win, but you're now up 4-0,
Mm,
and there's some players that now you can give some opportunities. Well, you should give it to them, because what happens if at the end of the game you don't give those players opportunity and two of your best players go down with injury, and now you're forced to play those kids, and now they're not ready for the environment because you've never played them? Is that the team's fault or the coach's fault? That's the coach's fault. So, but the fine line is, you've got those other parents that, well, my kid should be playing the whole time because he's better than that kid. But your job as a coach is to maybe first win, depending on what club you're at, but also make sure you're developing too, because at some point you may have to rely on the kid you never play. And if you do and you don't play them, that's the coach's fault. So you've got to find a way to temperament parents who are like, no, we should never play any of those kids because they're not as good as my kid. Well, you know what? Maybe today, but that could change. So there's got to be opportunities um, without risking the game, maybe. But that's where good coaching comes in, right?
I wouldn't be myself if I wouldn't throw myself into a little bit of a hot topic.
Yes,
Do,
devil's
do,
advocate.
do you think clubs should be more clear on what the end goal is?
1,000%.
Because sometimes different clubs, because I speak to different coaches, on one end, you're talking to the coaches and applying the pressure that we need to get results as a club.
Right.
But then when we're speaking to the parents as a
We're telling
club,
them
we're
different.
we're saying it's for everyone and it's the
Yeah.
development. It's two different things.
Yeah.
So from a coaching perspective, sometimes you feel like you're not backed
Yeah.
because you're stuck in a middle ground.
Yeah.
Of course you want to develop your player,
Yeah.
but then of course you also want to win. But then you end up getting split and pulled away
Yeah.
because you don't feel like you're backed.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think a lot of clubs deal with that. And my advice to them would be 100% transparent and upfront with the parents, because I think at the end of the day, as long as you do that, most parents are going to be okay with it. As long as you give them what the criteria is and you have explanations of here's why your kid isn't playing or why I made this decision, but this is how we do things, and most people are going to be fine with it. It's when you waffle back and forth is when you're going to cause yourself problems.
Love it. Another topic, another question that I'd like to get into. In this competitive environment for the coaches at a higher level, when they're dealing with first teams at their club, when they're dealing with that high school competitive job, that collegiate job that they've always wanted, how do you handle that pressure that starts to mount when things aren't going your way, when results aren't necessarily going your way, and you maybe start to hear chatter not necessarily from only your players, but from people in the background. Maybe parents are starting to turn because it does happen.
Yeah.
And you start to feel that pressure, not only from within yourself, because we know as coaches that that pressure is always there to generate results, but now you start to feel like things are starting to turn and things aren't going your way. What advice do you have for coaches that are maybe going through a similar situation like that?
First and foremost, I'd say again, communication is key, right? When things aren't going well, sometimes coaches turn inward and then they don't communicate. And now it starts to spiral. You're not winning. The parents now escalating. Well, they're not communicating. The team's doing poorly. No one knows what's going on, and now all of a sudden, you're sort of in this situation where you've lost the parents, you've lost the players, and now it's gotten back to the club, and now maybe you're losing them a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think it's communicating and explaining to them, here's why things are where they're going. Now, parents are always going to have their opinions on, oh, this kid should be here. We should be playing this system. I tell parents, hey, listen, I will live and die by my decisions, but let me have my decisions. And if I mess it up, then that's on me. But trust the process, because it's a journey, not a destination, right? And maybe sometimes it's a destination. Like if we make a goal that we want to win this event or we want to win this, okay, that's the destination. But it may take 3 years to get there.
Yeah.
You can't build it overnight. Rome wasn't built overnight, right? So you can't just go, oh, we want to go win Surf Cup. Okay, do you have the players to win it? Do you have the structure? Do you have the support? Do you have the players? I mean, there's a lot of variables. Now you can work up to that, and even when things aren't going the right way, as long as you're communicating to the parents, here's what we're trying to do. Here's where maybe things aren't going right. And sometimes it's hard because it might be a decision that you made.
Yeah.
And then you got to hold your hand up and go, you know what? I made a bad decision here. But now I know the fruits. I know the errors of my ways, and I'm going to move in a different direction now.
What's maybe a scenario or a situation that you've been through similarly where you start to feel that pressure when negative things are starting to mount, and you sense it as a coach when things are
Yeah.
starting to turn. It's not just the results. There's a sense, there's a feeling within that is just, it's more about the results, and
Right.
and stack that on top of whatever else there is. Can you think of maybe a specific time or scenario where you had that pressure and how you were maybe able to deal with it to get out, or maybe it didn't go for the better?
I think we deal with it all the time, and I think the advice I'd give there is, again, communicate and having parents tell them like, listen, you need to trust the process, and making sure that they understand, like, listen, because sometimes what happens is now maybe they start to feel a certain way, so now effort becomes less because kids hear their parents having the station wagon syndrome conversation in the car.
Yeah.
And now the kids get bought into it. And so now they're negative. And I tell my players, I'm like, listen, this isn't about me. I'm just a guide or apparatus. You're the players on the field that do it. If you're not happy with what I'm saying or doing, well, go out and do it for yourselves because you
Yeah.
still have each other on the field. And honestly, I can't do it for you on the field anyway. My job is to guide you during the games. You're the one actually playing. So don't turn it around and almost be like, oh, well, the coach is this or that. What can you do as a player? Yes, we need to give guidance, but you're the players on the field. Make a difference. It reminds me actually when Brian Spencer took over after Ziggy was let go, the team was a little bit in disarray, and Brian's like, listen, you guys are heading into the playoffs. Maybe some of you don't want to be here next year, but if you do well, then it's going to open a door for a lot of you to go other places if you want. Don't do it for the club, do it for yourselves. Then they went out and won the championship. That was maybe 10 years ago, and Brian's still here after he took over for Ziggy. So
Yeah.
he said it the right way. Like, go do it for yourselves. Don't worry about me. Don't go do it for yourselves. You're the ones who have to go on the field and do it. I'm just an apparatus that's going to help guide you to get there, but you ultimately have to do it as players.
No, I love that. Um, I want to get into another topic that I feel, and I know you're an instructor, but I feel like there is a divide with coaches. How important, how crucial is it for a coach's career to go through the process of the licensing and the courses through the federation, in order for them to make a career out of it? Because, again, I do feel like there is a little bit of a split. And what's your take on that?
My take is like anything in life. If I want someone to take me serious, if I wanted to become one of the best real estate people out there, I'd have to go get my CHP and all my other designations and licenses, and then people could take me serious, right? And I get it. Some people will say, well, it's just a piece of paper. It's just like a driver's license. Everyone has a license. Doesn't mean they're a good driver. That's true. But it gets you in the door. And then it's after that, it's yes, what you know after that. But if I wanted to be a lawyer, I couldn't just go to a law firm and say, hey, I want to be a lawyer. They'd say, well, do you have a license? No. So if you want to have this as a career path, it's just like any other career, and it is a career. And I think that's part of the problem is that there are those people out there who don't see this as a career. This is my profession. I take this very seriously.
Yeah.
And so I got as much education as I could because that gives me more credibility. Now, yes, it's still a piece of paper, but it got me in the door. Now it's about what I know, and I know a lot. But if I didn't have those pieces of paper, I could have never got in the door.
I'm gonna give you a little bit of the other side to it.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm right in the middle of where I am going through the license process, because I do want to learn, and I recognize there is so much more to learn from. Where I'm also in agreement a little bit with the other group that's not so much in favor of it is where I feel like a little bit, at least with our federation, it feels like you're restricted to, you have to go about it this way, this way, this way, this way. You have to deliver your sessions this way, this way, this way. And this is the right way to do it, or you can't pass. You have to use these phrases or these words in order to pass. Um, do you think there's some truth to that, or would you push back on that a little bit, or what would you say to the people that feel that way?
I think, I mean, there's somewhat truth. I mean, I've been teaching the courses a long time.
Yeah,
And I know back in the old days, it was sort of, hey, here's how we want it done. Regurgitate this information to get your license. And then once you get back in your own environment, do what works. Um, Part of this process is to teach us how to be successful in our environments. Um, Not all of us have a full field, right?
yeah,
There's flaws that are inherently in the courses because it assumes certain things. Show me one club or even team that gets to practice on a full field by themselves. I practiced tonight with 5 teams on one field.
yeah,
That's what I was at. That was my environment.
yeah,
So I think there's a little bit of that, but it's changed. I think the federation's done a good job of now moving towards, hey, we want you to go now in this environment and try to help players and teach it from a holistic way for them to be better players and better people. They've given you some autonomy to kind of like, okay, well, I can't do this in my environment, so I can make this work. But I think, yes, there is some kind of stringentness of, well, it has to be done this way. But that's like anything else, right?
yeah,
The bar exam may say, well, you need this actual score to pass the bar. That's part of how they do it. So I think you got to accept some of that. But I also think, too, that some lawyers, when they get in after they pass the bar, they have a certain way they go to trial.
exactly.
And maybe they don't follow it exactly to a T.
Yeah. Uh, do you think, because I know exactly what you mean, not that, and I'm going to be honest, not that I don't like some of the information that is given because I do apply some of the things that are given, but at the same time, I feel like that takes away from who I am as a coach a little bit. And it's hard for me to commit to strictly stick to these terms, to these bases. Especially, I deal with a lot of Hispanic players. The way you interpret the sport in Spanish is completely different.
Right.
The way you digest it, the way you interpret is completely different.
Right.
The way you speak, the tone, the verbiage. So it's difficult for me to commit to just solely that of what they're trying to give, and not just with the Hispanic players, with all the players. Okay, Eddie, before we end it, man, our first episode in Within the Game podcast, anything you'd want to finish off the episode with?
Just two things. That one, soccer people need to support the game, right? My goal, another reason why I got into coaching is I want to be part of seeing this country win a World Cup in my lifetime. It may not happen, right?
I always make those bets with guys.
But it starts with us supporting the game,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not talking about coaching education, just the game in general. Because if soccer people don't support soccer, who will, right? And because I am getting older in age, I've seen a lot of leagues come and go through this country. This is the last. It'll never be on the scale it is now again if we don't do it right. And I think they've done it right, but now we need it to bleed into the World Cup. And I think that starts with supporting it from every angle and every aspect. Go out and support the game. Because if soccer people don't support soccer, who will? There's a lot of new sports making some revivals. Cross, other ones. And I'm not down in any other sports. I'm just saying those of us who are diehard, don't forget to support us. Watch the game, turn it on TV, be a big fan as much as you can. I've been in this country when we didn't have a league, and it was tough.
Mm.
It was tough. So now that we've got it back, support it. Don't let it slip away like we did 40 years ago.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'll bring my standpoint to it as a Mexican fan. Um, at this stage where you guys are at, me growing up, I'm 22. It was unthinkable that the U.S. was in a better state than the Mexican national team. I think for a brief moment, 3 years, I think you could make the argument. Uh, Following that disaster after 2018,
Yeah.
3 4 years where maybe five, where the U.S. imposed themselves in the area in CONCACAF. Do you think you guys have lost that a bit? Because it feels like Mexico has lost all that production in Europe in terms of players exported to Europe, whereas the U.S. has done the opposite, where
Right.
you look at the U.S.'s list and everyone's in top leagues playing in European teams. It's not the case with Mexico, still as of right now. And you guys now have what a lot of people would consider a top manager in Mauricio Pochettino. Does it feel like, although, is it almost a circumstance or situation where it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back? Because it almost feels like the men's national team has taken steps forward. We talk about that dominance in CONCACAF, players to Europe, a top manager, but yet it almost feels like there's a lot of uncertainty, especially after Copa America and the Gold Cup, heading into hosting the World Cup. Do you feel a little bit of that?
I, I I think the biggest challenge for this country, as it always has been, we have to figure out a way. Um, and this is not knocking any other cultures that try to come in to teach us the beautiful game, but
Yeah.
it's culturally, no matter how high I went in the game, and let's say I went higher in the game, I went in the statures of a Casey Keller type stature.
Mm.
I still don't think I could go to Brazil and teach Brazilians because I'm not part of that culture.
Mm.
So it's for me, our struggle is we keep bringing in people, and you know, do they really understand the American culture? I don't know, but I think that's part of it. It's not just understanding football, but it's also understanding from the top down too, right? Like we've got all these kids. You would have think by now we would have produced a team that could win a World Cup. But are we finding the right players, right? That starts at the top. Are the right players filtering up to the national team to find that? Is it happening at the grassroots level? Do we have the right people looking at the right players from that standpoint? I think a lot of it's cultural. We've had different nationalities. And I think the women's side is an anomaly because you can say, oh, well, the women had foreign coaches and they've won it. It's
Yeah.
different on the men's side.
Can I push back a little bit on
Yeah.
that? Greg Berhalter had the job
Yeah.
for the previous World Cup in Qatar. Um, I think the best result that the country produced was that draw against England, and then obviously making it to past the group stage. The feeling that I had from a neutral perspective was that a lot of U.S. fans were complaining that they had a talented player pool, but they were missing that manager, that they were missing a top manager, a world-class manager. I didn't hear this from fans, and you may have felt this way before, but I didn't hear this from fans before Pochettino arrived. It was almost like they were clamoring and celebrating that Pochettino arrived. Would you agree with that? Where we were at a stage in 2022 where it felt like Berhalter, the American coach or manager, had a good group of players, a talented pool of players, and that wasn't enough, and they were just one manager, one coach away, and now you have it, and it almost feels like, especially after Copa America and the Gold Cup, and that wasn't under Pochettino, but there was a step taken back, and Nations League as well, where things weren't achieved. Do you feel like that's a proper argument made from a neutral perspective?
I think at this level, change is tough. and bringing in someone new, there's going to be adjustments. There's going to be adjustments to styles, um, what players he likes
Yeah.
versus the old regime.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't negate the fact that he's a top manager and even other foreign coaches have come in.
Mm.
I guess the part that still keeps drumming in my head is we need someone who can come in and fuse this big melting pot that we have called America and come in and find the right players. Because sometimes it's not having the best players, it's finding the right combination of players. I think some of that is cultural. And
Yeah.
that's why I go back to that, like,
The connection and the understanding.
yeah, of our environment. And maybe it's so difficult to do because we are so many different cultural, even within America, right? We have Latino Americans and
Yeah.
Italian
The
Americans,
diversity.
and maybe for the love of the game, maybe we put it all aside one day and say, let's just be all Americans right now, so we can figure out the football part, right? Because even within the United States, there's a Latino culture that's different from
Yeah.
the American culture that's part of soccer.
And there's a constant battle between the two
Sure.
federations for the Obed Vargas, the
Yeah.
Julian Araujos. So the other side to that as well, and I like this conversation a lot. We talk about finding the right players. Players didn't want to report to Gold Cup. The players chose to not report to the Gold Cup, where this was your last official competition heading into such a big event. Knowing that it was your last proper timeline to work together, especially knowing that you have a new manager going into a once in a lifetime opportunity. Do you think Pochettino's not maybe given enough time, especially knowing that players didn't decide to show up? Your Pulisics, your Gio Reynas, your Musas, your Tim Weahs, your Robinsons. I mean, you can list a good amount of players that decided to not show up. What would the response be to that?
Well, I'm close to some circles that
Yeah,
some things I'm gonna refrain from commenting
yeah,
just to stay out of the politics.
yeah,
Um, and I guess I'll just leave it with, at the end of the day, if we truly want to win a World Cup, we have to support. Like I said before, if soccer people don't support soccer, who will?
yeah.
So, that's just self-explanatory,
Mm, mm,
right?
yeah, yeah. I love it. Last one. Last two parts to it. Who do you feel is going into the tournament feeling more optimistic about themselves? The Mexican Federation or the American one? And then do you is there a sense of panic within the American fan base and federation going into this tournament, speaking about the form and the controversy that has been surrounding this camp for the past really half year?
I mean, I don't know if I would call it a panic. I mean, I think true to the American spirit, when it's time to step on the field, hopefully people are going to show up, right?
Yeah,
And everyone's going to put their money where their mouth is.
yeah,
Um, I'm not part of what's gone on in Mexico, why there was the drop. There
yeah,
seemingly a drop
yeah.
where
That's a whole nother topic.
there's
Yeah,
a shift, right? But I truly believe both federations they'll show up to compete and play. And at that level, there's so many different variables.
Yeah.
Even to win the whole thing, they have the FIFA rankings, but at the end of the day, there's so many different variables on who's going to come out on top.
yeah.
Um,
If you were to bet, though, if you were to put money on it, who do you feel more comfortable in? Who are you more optimistic with having a better display?
I mean, My loyalty says America.
Yeah.
I think both countries are in the fortunate situation that it's in our backyard.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think
We get one here in Seattle.
I think that will help Mexico.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to be playing in there, and there's something different about, when you're in another country, but now in your own backyard, you got to go home the next day.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah.
Right. And same for the Americans. So, hopefully people show up and they're ready to play.
For the record, Eddie's saying Mexico. I'm gonna get the jersey from back here. It's all funny games, man. It's all funny games. But Estadio Azteca is gonna be buzzing.
I'm hoping to see a game. My goal is to see one game in every country: Canada, Mexico, and USA.
Awesome. And we get one. The U.S. comes to Seattle.
Yeah.
So it'll be here, 2-3 blocks away from where we're at right now.
Where we're at.
That'll
right
be
now.
awesome. All right, man. Sounds good, Eddie.
All right.
Perfect, man. Appreciate you coming, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good, Jaime? Perfect.
That was cool.